Would you still believe in your worth, even if the entire world treated you as invisible, even when your actions are ignored, your words dismissed, and your heart misunderstood? How many times does life seem to turn away, as if you weren't ready, as if what you carry inside doesn't matter? But time does not move with anxiety. It does not rush to please us. It matures in silence. The world values immediate brilliance, but the soul only reveals itself in the dark dot, in the prison of anonymity, in the pit of rejection, in the exile no one sees. True power is not born on a throne. It is forged in the silence of inner prisons, in the waiting that no one applauds, in self-control, in the face of injustice. In faith that persists, even when everything seems dead. This is not just an ancient story. It's not just about Joseph. It's about you, about what is being shaped within you. While everything seems to crumble outside, do you feel left behind, forgotten by those who should remember you, betrayed by those who should protect you? Perhaps you are exactly where you need to be, not to be recognized, but to be strengthened. Stay until the end, not out of curiosity, but out of purpose, because understanding this journey could transform your own path. And if this quiet wisdom, deep, timeless, and unmasked, touches you, consider subscribing to this channel. Here every story is a compass. Every word a mirror. Today we'll uncover the Stoic message behind Joseph's rise to power, and why, when the opportunity came, he was already a king within. Joseph was just a boy when he began carrying something inside him that he couldn't name, a calling that didn't come from words, but from images in his dreams. In them, sheaves of grain bowed before his, and the stars, sun and moon paid him homage. It was a mysterious sign. More than a childish fantasy, it was a proclamation. Something great awaited him, but how could he bear the weight of such a promise while still so small? He didn't keep the dream to himself. He shared it with his brothers, perhaps seeking understanding, perhaps because a true dream, when it pulses strongly, demands to be spoken. But it was misunderstood. His brothers didn't see the dream's lightly, the threat it cast on their shadows. What began as envy grew into hatred. Whispers turned to rejection, and rejection became betrayal. One day, while obeying his father and bringing supplies to his brothers, he was ambushed. They seized him, stripped off his robe, and threw him into a dry well. Then they sold him as a slave for 20 pieces of silver. That was how Joseph, the dreamer, had his freedom torn away. Betrayed by those who shared his blood, he was ripped from home and thrown into a world he didn't know. Strange languages, cold stares, hard labor all became part of his new reality. But what could have broken him did not. Joseph did not rebel. He did not poison himself with bitterness. He did not curse life. He accepted reality without surrendering to despair. He served with dignity, with presence, with a quiet faith. He was discreet, yet noticeable. Everything he did prospered. His character set him apart. His posture made him trustworthy. He didn't need others to recognize him. He had already recognized himself within. That was how, even as a slave, he gained trust in the house of Potiphar, an Egyptian official. But life, as the great philosophers knew, tests even the most upright. Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him. He refused, not out of cowardice, but out of honor, out of principle, out of respect for himself and the man who had trusted him. Wounded in her pride, she retaliated with lies. She falsely accused him, and her voice, drunk with fury, was louder than Joseph's truth. Once again, he was torn from what he had built. He was thrown into prison, wrapped in a new darkness, slandered, condemned, forgotten. The cold cell of Egypt became his new address. But for Joseph, prison was not the end. It was a forge. There, between damp walls and bars that trapped the body, he freed his soul. He interpreted dreams. He helped other prisoners. He listened, advised, and gave meaning to others' nightmares even, without a solution for his own. 2 years passed, 2 years of silence, of waiting, of being forgotten. But time has ears, and the heavens do not ignore patience. One day, Pharaoh had a dream. None of Egypt's wise men could interpret it. And then, finally, someone remembered Joseph. They brought him in haste, shaved his beard, dressed him in clean clothes, presented him to the king. But what they didn't know, and perhaps never understood, was that Joseph had been ready long before he was summoned. His strength did not come from appearance, but from his soul. He had already conquered himself. Before Pharaoh, He showed neither anxiety nor arrogance. He listened carefully, interpreted clearly, explained that 7 years of plenty would be followed by 7 years of famine. But he didn't stop at the revelation. He presented a plan, strategy, applied wisdom. The king, impressed, said, "Can we find anyone like this man, in whom is the Spirit of God?" And in that moment, Joseph was elevated, from prison to the throne, from obscurity to leadership over the entire nation. But what few realize is that the throne didn't make him a king. He was already a king within. The crown merely reflected what had been shaped in silence. While everyone forgot him, he remembered himself. He conquered pride, tamed anger, refined his vision, taught himself patience. He was no longer the young man who dreamed of sheaves bowing to him. He was the man who understood the value of time, who recognized that power is not given, it is earned within, long before it is recognized without doubt. As the Stoics taught, we do not control events, but we are masters of our response to them. Joseph did not choose betrayal, prison, or humiliation, but he chose how to respond to each pick. He chose to keep his dignity where most would lose control. He chose to serve where others would rebel. He chose to wait where others would forget hope. His life reminds us that the greatest thrones are not on pedestals, but on solid souls. That the greatest kingdoms are internal. That true power is quiet, discreet, firm like the root that sustains the tree long before it blooms. And when the right time comes, like Joseph, we won't need to force the door. Life, with its slow and silent wisdom, will know how to call us. Joseph's story echoes with near-surgical precision the principles of Stoicism. Faced with betrayal, enslavement, and unjust imprisonment, he did not lose himself in impulsive reactions, did not scream his pain to the world, nor beg for immediate justice. He did something far rarer. He remained whole. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Joseph, even without external freedom, was a free man within. He had achieved what the Stoics considered essential: self-mastery, faced rejection without hardening his heart, endured abandonment without growing bitter, and perhaps his noblest virtue was patience, not passive, resigned patience, but what Seneca called patient courage, the ability to endure what cannot be changed without losing sight of what can still be done. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body, Seneca wrote. While the world forgot Joseph, he grew stronger. He matured in silence, honed his posture, his vision, his faith. He understood that it was not what was done to him that would define him, but what he chose to do with what happened. It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters, Epictetus said. And Joseph reacted with dignity. This is the virtue of resilience, not the kind that flares up in rebellion, but the kind that matures into steadfastness. The resilience of someone who has nothing to prove, someone who knows the right time does not depend on haste, but on preparation. Joseph did not control the timing, but he controlled the posture with which he walked through it. This is a fundamental Stoic lesson. Life does not belong to us entirely, but the way we respond to it, that is our responsibility. Joseph, even without knowing the name for it, was Stoic, a silent example of inner strength. And you, are you living in your own invisible prison? Not one of iron or high walls, but one only you can feel, trapped in a waiting no one sees, in a silence no one understands. Maybe you're in a season where everything seems still, where time moves too slowly, and you feel as if life has forgotten you exist. Maybe someone betrayed you, someone you loved, trusted, expected loyalty from, and now, all that's left is you with yourself. Like Joseph, you've been thrown into a pit, not a physical one, but an emotional one, a dark hole where the voices of the past echo louder than any comfort, and it seems the world has moved on, except you. But what if? What if this silence that troubles you is actually the training ground for your greatness? What if this waiting is life shaping you within before revealing you without? What if this delay is just the exact time needed for your maturation? Joseph spent years in silence, years being faithful without recognition, years imprisoned though he had done no wrong. He didn't waste time trying to prove his innocence. He didn't beg to be heard. He simply did what was right in silence, and when the right time came, he didn't have to announce himself. Life itself called him, because those who are great within don't need to force their way. Maturity speaks for itself. True virtue is recognized even in the dark. Maybe what you're going through now isn't a punishment. Maybe it's preparation, maybe this pain, this pause, this delay are exactly what will ensure that when opportunity comes, you won't be someone trying to appear renewal. Already be strong. You don't need to rush time. You need to learn from it. Stoic wisdom teaches us that serenity doesn't come from the absence of difficulties, but from understanding that we don't control events, only our response to them. The world screams for results, but the soul asks for roots. Deep, firm roots, unshaken by the winds of criticism or waiting. The world doesn't need more speed, it needs more depth. People who are solid, with forged souls. People like Joseph. Don't rush, don't rebel, don't curse the process. Breathe, observe, persevere, because God's timing and Stoic wisdom have something in common. They don't shout, they shape. In silence. From within, until you are ready, and the world prepared to recognize who you've already become. The wise man does not choose the easiest path. He honors the one given to him. This phrase captures the essence of Joseph. He didn't seek shortcuts, didn't try to manipulate events, nor despair when everything seemed to crumble. Instead, he surrendered to the process, accepted silence as part of the journey, endured injustice without becoming unjust, and waited, not with anxiety, but with readiness. Joseph understood the difference between being promoted and being prepared, between occupying a position and sustaining it. And so, when the opportunity came, he wasn't improvising, he was already great within, because true growth isn't visible to the immediate eye. It happens in silent layers, at the bottom of the pit, in the darkness of the prison, in the waiting no one understands. If this story has touched something deep in you, if it has spoken to some quiet part of your soul, consider following this channel. Here, every narrative is a reminder that the soul has its own rhythm, and life has direction. Even when everything seems stagnant, you're not stuck, you're being shaped, and when the opportunity comes, and it will, you won't need to chase what's yours. You'll simply realize you were already ready, because those who prepare in silence win without needing to shout.